Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, removing barriers to grow your people.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is my Sage colleague, Diane Gaa. Diane is a learning professional with over 20 years of experience in the learning industry, specializing in executing transformation strategies for human resources and learning and development, currently working at Sage as a director of design, experience, and technology. Her passion is to help others become their best, whatever they can dream, advocacy of digital accessibility, supporting equal access, and adopting a smarter working mindset. Welcome to the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast, Diane.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, first off, Diane, why do you do what you do?
I've always had a passion to help people and really think about, I started out in my earlier career, really thinking I was never good enough. I had limited education. I was smart, but because, maybe I didn't have quite the piece of paper that everybody else had, always second guessed myself. So I always want to really help people really move forward, even those that may be, underrepresented, underserved, helping, get them the opportunities that, whatever they dream they can do. And I think that's always been my passion, and that is represented in what I do today in my learning, role, is really how do we help them move the needle? How do we figure out what skills they have? How can that be translated into whatever they decide they want to do next? And that's really what I try to do every day.
Well, let's drill down on that a little bit. Before we started recording, you mentioned that you have a passion lately for helping professionals use AI to help them and us, all of us, learn in a better way. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the piece of really using, the burst of a technology that's come to life as far as AI. How can we use that in a way to move us forward a little quicker? I think we forget that it's not all about just, going to a university and get a piece of paper, but it's applying those skills in the real world. And with the use of AI, we can think about this in a different way. So it's really around, what do we really need to know versus what do we need to be able to how can we find out what we need to know versus actually retaining that, I guess is what I'm saying. So for example, I don't need to memorize all of the Excel formulas, right? I can actually go to, using generative AI and be able to say, find me this formula and be able to compute this or that. I don't have to worry about that as a human. I need to worry about what are the things that I can use from an AI perspective in being able to train them to think a little more humanistically, more like a human, to be able to give those outputs that are a little bit more fuller, I guess.
And one of the things I've been thinking about, and you've probably heard this as well, is AI is not going to come and take people's jobs. People who know how to use AI will potentially take the jobs of those that don't know how to use AI.
Yeah. And I think that comes into play where we are talking about, how do we help people, get to their dreams? How do we help them move and be able to do jobs they may not have ever thought they could, because either they didn't have the skill set, they don't have the talents, or they don't think they have that. And I like to look at, how can we take those skills you currently have, think about them differently, think about the technology that's available to be able to enable you to do that. And I think generative AI is one way that we can think a little differently on, what do I need for a specific craft or role, and what do I need from a human skill set, and then what do I need from understanding the technology to enable that. I use the AI assistant every day. It does probably 25% of my job. right now. And what's nice about that is then I can use that other 25% to start thinking about things that I know the technology isn't quite in that level of expertise at this moment. I think it'll get there, but I don't think it's going to take away people's jobs. I think it's going to redefine what people think their job is.
You know what I think is interesting is I was working with my kids last year when this first started exploding onto the scene, and how many teachers' initial gut reaction was to say, don't use this. You're not allowed to use this. And my response to my kids was, no, you can use it. I'm allowing you to use it. Don't be stupid and copy and paste it into an answer, but learn how to use it effectively, I think, is really the key. And I want you to react to this. What I love about generative AI is previously, when we were interacting with computers, we would say something like, well, that's a good answer to my question, but I wish it was X. And now you can just say, make it like X.
Right. Give me a tone of voice in this, fashion, or simplify this. There's a lot of times they'll give me way too much information, but it's all about changing the prompts and how you ask it, and you get different responses. And that's part of the human aspect of being able to understand how to work with these kind of technologies to be able to get the outputs you need to be able to work smarter, instead of harder. And I think that is a skill set that we all have to learn. But I think once we learn it, I think, sky's the limit. I think we can, do things. I can work in a different industry. I can work in a different craft role and be able to feel confident because I have the tools that will be utilized now and in the future to be able to give me the ability to do the work, but also to have the freedom to have a little space for learning, that specific craft and what the human elements of it are.
And Dan, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would say a hero of mine has always been my dad. He's passed now, but he always worked very hard, and I think too hard. And I think that's why I look at him on that work ethic. That's what I want to replicate. But I also want to, adopt some of the things I'm teaching others as far as working smarter. And I think if he was, here with us right now, he's passed, but if he was here with us, I think, he would be very eager to adopt some of these technologies and adopt some of these ways of working on how could he have, done things differently. But I think from a work ethic perspective, I really admire him. And, he is definitely my hero always. Looking up to him. So it's a little cheesy, but that's who he is.
And lastly, Diane, how can somebody contact you?
They can get me on LinkedIn under Diane Gaa, and I have my LinkedIn profile. Also, I have my Sage email address, which I can you can find also on LinkedIn as well as my personal. So. That's how I'm connected, I guess.
All right. Diane Gaa, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.
All right. Thank you so much.
Review and subscribe by searching your podcast player of choice for Sage Thought Leadership Podcast.